when we see our kids or teens staring at their screens for long periods, we make the assumption that they're wasting their time. But so many of their day-to-day tasks and tools are now on their phones.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. This season, we're taking a look at healthy screen habits heroes. These are the people who are making a difference in the everyday lives of people like you and me. Now, heroes have superpowers that are as diverse as they come. If I had to label a superpower for my guest today, it would be the art of connecting through writing. Jessica Spear is the author of books for kids and teens, and her latest book, The Phone Book, Stay Safe, Be Smart, and Make the World Better with the Powerful Device in Your Hand, is just the latest in her books that helps tweens and teens become their best selves. So I love The Phone Book because it frames the reader as the hero. And it seems like it's sort of a handbook on how to navigate tech. And I love even the intro states through real stories, weird facts, and techie tidbits. This book reveals the power of your phone as well as your superpower to slay the dark side of technology. That cracked me up. So I'm so happy to welcome today the author of this amazing resource, Jessica Spear.
Hey, Hillary, so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Jessica, you have a master's in social sciences, and you're clearly invested in this very specific time of kind of like adolescence, which honestly, it's this time of development that a lot of adults find uncomfortable or they tend to shy away from when you talk about middle school age or something like that. But you seem to have really honed in on this age. And what is it that you love about this age group?
Oh man, so many things. I'm glad you asked. And that's why I write books for this group because, let's think back to these years. So these are those messy middle years where we are shifting from being kids to growing into adults. So of course it's messy, of course it's awkward, and you use the word uncomfortable, and I love that because that's one thing I think I've learned in my journey as a writer, as a mom, as a social scientist, is just to get comfortable with that discomfort, because of course it's going to be uncomfortable. They're making this huge transition, from one phase of life to the other. So I love it because all these changes are going on, in their bodies, in their brains. It's a time of tremendous brain growth, especially in the middle school years. And for the first time in their lives, preteens and teens are starting to really deeply look at who they are, like what is their identity, what do they care about, who are their friends, what are they interested in. So all of that makes it actually really cool. So that's why I like to write for this group, because there's a lot going on, and so we as adults can support them as they're kind of navigating this often bumpy but really important phase of life.
You use that word transition, and I think your book captures this transitional period really well because you combine all of these games and decoding activities and fun tidbits, but interspersed with a lot of science and a lot of very, hard facts. So I think that marriage of those two things exactly describes the person you were just describing, that kind of in-betweener there.
Yeah, because sometimes they're a kid and sometimes they are not a kid. And so I definitely needed to include all that fun stuff to make the book fun. And also because I'm competing with technology, which is really fun. So,
Right.
so I had to think about all those things. How can I make a book about cell phones that kids actually want to read? Yeah. So that, therein lies my approach, is to just make it as engaging engaging and humorous and fun as possible, but with some really good facts because kids are smart. And I find that when we put, good information in their hands, they make different choices. So that's what I wanted to do.
You've done so much work with this specific age group. What made you want to create specifically a book about cell phones?
Well, even though this has been happening for a while, I do feel like this transition of all of us, letting a lot of our lives play out online has happened actually rather quickly in the last, really since 2007, I would say. And the fact that it's moved so quickly into how childhood unfolds. So I feel like I wanted to do this because we don't have a lot of hands-on, super practical resources in place to guide kids and families. And I always like to write and speak directly to the kids because, like what I said before, I feel like they're so smart. So that's what I wanted to do. Wanted to fill what I feel like is a gap in some really straightforward tips and tools as to how to navigate these devices in healthy and safe ways. So I was really clear in my intention there, and that definitely guided the content of the book.
Great. So it seems like of all the conversations that families are having right now, phones and issues around devices are creating enormous points of friction. And I'm just wondering, do you have an idea as to what you would say that we as parents are kind of like missing on the phone front?
Yeah, well, I think, and I have two teens now too. So as I was writing this, they were preteens and early teens, but now they're both, 15 and 17. So I feel like as parents, and myself included, sometimes we assume a lot of the things they're doing on their phone is not important. But these tools, there's a lot of important stuff going on. Kids are often, they might be checking their grades. They might be having some communications that's really important with friends. They're doing day to day, really important stuff. Now, that's of course interspersed with, scrolling TikTok and all these other things, which are important in different ways. But I think sometimes we as parents, when we see our kids or teens staring at their screens for long periods, we make the assumption that they're wasting their time. But so many of their day to day tasks and tools are now on their phones. For instance, even hearing from clubs at school or checking homework assignments. So much is happening on that little device that, that helps explains why they are staring at it so much. So let's not, as parents, assume that what they're doing is just wasting time. Some of it is really important daily life stuff that they're trying to stay on top of.
Excellent. Yeah, just like us, right? I mean, we're
Yes.
keeping grocery lists to doctor's appointments to everything else in this little device. So, next, we're going to talk about all of the amazing topics and tidbits and even the fun trivia that are between the covers of the phone book. But first, we have to take a break.
At what age should I give my child a smartphone? How much screen time should I allow each day? What are the best filters to use on my family's devices? Sound familiar? These questions and more are answered at the Healthy Screen Habits website. We've curated the best articles, books, videos, and many other resources to help you figure out how you want to use technology in your life. Click on the awareness section to learn about the issues and dangers surrounding screen use. Then click on the Tools page to download printables you can use with your family today, including the Healthy Screen Habits Family Technology Plan. Visit our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org for the resources and tools you need to get started.
I'm speaking with Jessica Spear, the highly acclaimed author of books for kids and teens. She is known for writing books that unpack tricky stuff. These are the kind of things that surface around childhood and adolescence. And her latest book, The Phone Book, sets up kids for success when getting their first phone or a social media account. And this book is written for kids. Like I said earlier, it has really very fun interactive pages. It's kind of like one part anecdote, one part science-based facts, and then it's got some like workbooky quizzes, code breaking, trivia type stuff. So I'm just trying to give people a good picture of what this whole book is, because it's a lot of fun. And one of the things, Jessica, that you get into right off the bat that I appreciate is self safety. And on page 21, you include a health and safe habits checklist. What made you kind of open with this?
Yes, yes. And so every chapter at the end of it, after we talk about whatever we're talking about, whether it's, stranger danger or FOMO or social media, every chapter at the end does have a safe and healthy checklist, just to kind of bring it all back to like, how can we bring this to play in our lives on our phone? So the one, I'll read a few examples from this one. That's the end of chapter 1. So chapter 1 is why tech companies want you staring at your screen. Because I thought, of course I have to start there, right? That's the foundation for all of this, right? That we all are having to deal with these devices that are so beautifully and precisely designed that you can keep us coming back to them all the time. So that's chapter 1. So this is the safe and healthy checklist after we've talked about why tech companies want us staring at our screen. So 1, avoid mindless screen time. During screen time, ask yourself, am I enjoying this? Is this what I want to be doing right now? 2, check privacy settings. Check your phone settings for options such as do not share my data. As laws and rules change, more privacy options may become available. Delete old apps. Delete apps you no longer use, so your phone will stop updating and collecting them. 4, set limits. Set daily screen limits so you have time to do other activities you enjoy. So those are just a few. And what I did here also when I was researching this book is kids are also getting more savvy because we're talking more about it. Thank you, parents. So they are actually starting to realize the need to set some limits too. Do you find that too, Hillary?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I do workshops in high schools, and I couldn't agree with you more, where more and more what I find is kids, they know about this thing called app limits, or they know about these tools, but they want to know, where do I find those? How do I get those? I mean, never mind the fact that you can YouTube anything or you can Google anything and it'll take you right there. But I think when you're right in front of them, and a lot of them also are very interested in having just some quick, how do I enforce a screen, just a dial back on me wanting to look at it. Like, I encourage they go to grayscale for a 24-hour period. Just see what it's like. Take away the color out of the screen. All of a sudden, those social media feeds become far less interesting.
Yes.
And it's fun because I'll issue like a 24-hour challenge and then come back the next day and we all kind of check in. And I always tell them, I don't ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do. So I have to go on grayscale for that 24 hours as well. And I'm like, oh, let's get rid of this, so I think we can learn a lot from them as far as what they're looking for. And it's becoming better to have just more of a conversation about it.
Yes.
Rather than this kind of top down talk.
For sure.
And I think your book does that really well.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. And as families, we can just keep sharing tips back and forth, like just even me discovering, oh, I can actually turn some of these privacy settings off and turn off what, ads are collecting on me. So, and then sharing that with my kids. So we just keep talking about this as a family so that we all get better at this, because it is hard to keep up, and things are changing all the time too. Every time there's an update, there might be a change to some of these settings.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, no, I think lots of little conversations are the key. So, and I think kind of the one message that gets hammered into kids' brains from the time that they can log on is the old "your digital footprint lives forever" lesson that gets said again and again, to the point where they're like, we know. Yeah. And I think kids sometimes have a hard time of when they're younger bringing this to real world application. And I really like how you have this great way of illustrating what a collective view of photos online does to build a story about someone in an exercise that you call You Be the Judge. And just so our listeners know, it puts the reader in the seat of being an employer of an ice cream shop and having to select who it is that they would hire based upon the 3 pictures shown of each individual. And so, knowing what you know about this specific time in development, what is it about kids at this age that fuels this type of self-based learning rather than, like I said, I find it so much more effective for them to do this exploration rather than to have this top-down didactic management type stuff. So what is it that fuels this self-based learning?
Yeah, great question. And so this time of life, so when we're talking, from the preteens all the way through the teens, this process where kids are really individuating from their parents speeds up. So their whole lives they're starting to individuate and figure themselves out so they can fly from our nest. That really ramps up, and we feel that as parents. When once they get to these preteen years, we can feel that space that they are trying to create, and they do want to learn and do things on their own. They want to make more choices. They want to build their own confidence in problem solving skills. So that's why, it happens to be the time now that they're all getting phones too, when we actually really do want to talk to them about all this stuff, but it's the time where they do want to do things on their own. So we as parents have to just make sure we're connecting them with the resources so they can learn a lot of these skills on their own, in a way that works for them. So I'm not advocating like to totally pull back. I do think those ongoing conversations are super important. But when they are picking up information that's not coming directly from us, they're going to listen a little more. In fact, one of the tricks I found with my kids is sometimes when they were younger, even pulling in an older teen and that older teen telling them some experiences was so much more impactful than me sharing mine. Because again, they're trying to pull away from me. They're trying to figure out who they are on their own. Who are they outside of our family group? So yeah, we need to think about it as parents. How can we support them during this really important phase of individuation?
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I love about this time in development is they're very connected and they're very empathetic towards animals and younger children, it seems like. So my particular recommendation would be for somebody who might be considering purchasing this book and thinking, gosh, I really want my kid to read this, but I know they're never going to read a book that I say, you should read this, but maybe if you approach it as, hey, I heard about this book. I was wondering if you could read it and give me some feedback and have another child in mind. I mean, I would clear it, obviously, if you have like a cousin or a younger somewhere, and then that your child can kind of serve as like, the expert voice, the subject matter expert in that. And you're putting them in a place of power. You're also getting them to get through the content, which is your objective.
I love that idea. That is a great idea, Hillary. They can be like, you can say, hey, tell me if this is a really good fit for your little cousin Timmy, who's just getting their phone. Do you feel like tell me if this book is real and hits on the good topics that they should know? That's a great idea.
Right. Yeah. And then it kind of enlists them. And it also kind of flips that mindset into coming from a different place of, rather than feeling hounded of like, oh, I'm being told what to do, to what kind of advice do I have to give?
Yes.
Because they have so much. I mean, they've grown up in this, they're swimming in this water continually. So, yeah. So one of the things that I really like also is trivia of all sorts. So I found, I read this fact in your book. I hope you don't care that I'm going to blow this, but one of them was 26% of phones are damaged by falling in toilets. I think that's
Yes.
so gross.
I know. I found this little tidbit as I was going to my phone store because something was wrong with my phone, and the guy behind the counter is like, I actually think I did drop mine in water, and he's like, did you know most people or so many people drop their phone in the toilet? I thought, no. So then, of course, I researched. I'm like, it's true. You can see how this could easily happen. It's in your pocket, drops right in the toilet. So yeah, that was one of those fun little nuggets that I discovered in my research, and it makes perfect sense. Of course, they fall in the toilet quite often.
Yeah, it's funny. So one of our 5 core habits is keeping phones out of bedrooms and bathrooms. So this I think I glommed onto it because I'm like, oh, this lends fuel to our claim of like, this is why phones don't belong in bathrooms. They get damaged there.
I love that. I should add that. I always talk about out of bedrooms, but I'm adding out of bathrooms, of course.
Yes. So do you have a favorite pit of weird phone trivia?
This one I love because it kind of blows kids' minds. Okay, so this is a weird fact from the book. In Taiwan, parents can be fined $1,600 if their kids spend too much time on screens. Taiwanese lawmakers approved the Youth and Child Welfare and Protection Act, a law modeled after similar laws in China and South Korea that aim to limit screen time to healthy levels. But I love that because it shows just all countries are trying to figure out ways to keep our screen use healthy. So I love that because that, I don't know, just opens kids' eyes to, oh, okay, it's not just my parents. This is something the whole world is trying to navigate.
Yeah, and amazing that they're establishing like monetary fines for
I
it.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about tracking data. Holy
I know.
moly.
That would never fly. That wouldn't fly
No.
in this country, but it's an interesting approach.
Yes. Yes. So one of the things that you bring up about social media is the ability for kids to use it for good. Why is it important that they know this?
Well, I think into my research, just seeing some of the real negative ways that it can be used. And so I wanted to see if I could change the paradigm there. And if we start thinking about social media as a way to change the world for the better in small and even tiny ways, little tiny ways. There's some anecdotes in the book about how just, sending out really positive messages or shout outs to people, just using it as a way to make this very crazy, stressful world a little bit better. It really change things, because so much of our communications are online now. So you just, I talk to my kids and I talk in the book about what can we do just to use this as a force for good. Let's keep thinking about that. What can we do to share kindness, to advocate for really important, positive things, to communicate with our peers, but in positive ways, because it can quickly go south. And we've all seen that in life and around the world, how things can really go south. But we play a role in making sure that we are using this really powerful tool to try to create more goodness in the world.
Yeah. And that, really holds hands with, there's a researcher by the name of Sarah Coyne out of BYU. I remember this episode because her healthy screen habit was interact more with social media, which is kind of counterintuitive to what you would think somebody would come. But she said, in her research, she found that people who spend more time on social media consuming tend to leave the platforms with a diminished mental, like happiness state, I should say, and whereas if they're looking for the good online, one, the algorithms will continue to feed you that good stuff, and two, you get a little dopamine hit or a serotonin boost by doing the friend shout outs or the positive comments. So if I go on social media, I kind of find like 3 things I'm going to compliment, and it does, it helps. I think it's important knowing the data that we do with teenage girls and the comparison and all of that. If we can teach them, okay, limit your time and look for the good, I think that's much healthier.
Yeah, and it could be simple. Yeah, it could be so simple. I remember one year just before Valentine's Day, I decided, okay, I'm going to send my closest loved ones, the days leading up, some really just simple positive texts. And that one gesture, I got so much feedback, like how meaningful that was. And it didn't
Oh,
take me but 5 minutes a day, for a few days before Valentine's. So it could be little. It can be just little things that we can do.
yeah. Yeah. Very neat. I love that idea. Okay. So, uh, continuing along the thought of social media, one of the things you taught me in this book was a technique used by cyber stalkers and how they will sometimes gain entry into a friend group or school by sending friend requests to a bunch of kids from a single city or school. And you point out that the cyber stalker knows that even if only one person in that group friends them, they kind of gain entry through that of like, oh, they're friends with so and so. So, can you talk about that little bit more about teaching the importance of who you accept as friends
Yes,
to follow?
yes. And especially, as kids are starting out, so hopefully as they're starting out, and if they're on social media, it's those accounts are private, so they have to approve those requests. But because this age group, they are looking for this validation from peers. And one of the ways we get validation from peers is the number of followers, so that actually becomes a meaningful number to preteens as well as teens. The downside of that is, there's going to be some kids and teens that accept a lot of, followers from strangers. And then there, that, as you mentioned, that opens the door. So as soon as you get a friend request by somebody that has they're connecting already with 3-year friends, you think, oh, this person might be okay. So we as parents have to talk about just looking out for that, to realizing that, do you really want to have people you don't know at all, seeing your posts and, just knowing personal information about you. So this is a tough one because it's going against their desire to have more followers and, more validation from peers. So it kind of goes against where they are right now developmentally. But that ongoing conversation about, well, here's why. So we can be honest about that. We can say there's some people that they do try to get into groups of kids, and here's how they do it. So just, increasing their awareness that this is a thing and it does happen.
It was pointed out to me recently that the friends that we have online are labeled friends, but they're not actually friends. They're digital contacts.
Hmm.
It's a big difference. But kids are so literal that if you call them a friend, they're going to read friend and think friend.
Yes.
So I thought, wow, that was a whole mental flip for me that I had not previously considered. So when we come back, I am going to ask Jessica Spear for her healthy screen habit. Did you know that Healthy Screen Habits does workshops? For 2 days, we can come and guide students through an exploration of their own tech use and facilitate a research-based presentation bespoke to their own questions. 87.5% of the teens who participated in this workshop recorded a change in their tech use following participation. For more information, contact us at info@healthyscreenhabits.org. The book that you need if you have a child getting ready for a device or social media is The Phone Book by Jessica Spear. It's available today, and I highly recommend it. I think the title's kind of funny, The Phone Book, because, but I grew up when the phone book was something you sat on, to give you an extra boost. And so
Me too. That's why I chose the name. I'm like, I can't not call it the phone book because it has so many meanings.
Exactly. This one gives you a different kind of a boost. Okay. Jessica, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask each guest for a healthy screen habit. And this is a tip or takeaway that our listeners can put into practice in their own home. Do
Mm.
you have one?
I I do. And so I'm going to go off what we were talking about, using our phones and social media as a force for good. And I am a huge advocate for family dinners. So, I try at least a few times a week to make sure we as a family all sit down to dinner. And I usually ask some question just to kind of get conversation going, or have my kids ask a random question. So one question I'd love to add to your family dinner conversations is, go around the table and ask, how have you used your phone as a force for good, or social media as a force for good lately? And so just asking that question. And if they haven't, what have you seen? What have you seen that's inspired you, where you're seeing phones and social media used as a real positive force? So just having that conversation regularly will help us all keep thinking about ways that we can use this tool in positive ways.
Yeah, I love that. I think when you approach something from, curiosity, it's always good, but we can learn so much from our kids. My daughter just sent me an account that it's a guy who does a good news blip like every single day. And I just love it, because it is this little feel good thing and he talks about what's right. Like, what are some environmental things that are going okay? What species are being taken off of the endangered list? I feel like there's so much that we get hit with, a lot of negative stuff. It's really refreshing to have a good thing.
Oh, I love that. You're gonna have to send that to me, Hillary. I need
I
that too.
I will. As always, you can find a complete transcript of this episode and a link to any resources discussed, including the phone book, by visiting the show notes for this episode. So you do this by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click on the podcast button, and scroll to find this episode. Jessica, thank you so much for writing this amazing resource for the superheroes in us all, and yourself being heroic.
Oh, thank you, Hillary, and thank you for all you do. It is just I've listened to your podcast so much as I was researching and writing this book, so I appreciate this amazing resource you're putting out there for all of us too.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.